So this week we're going to be starting by learning how to graph the exponential equation. So we have talked, we started in foundations last year, and you guys, as a group, we saw last semester, we saw linear equation. Remember, linear equation basically gave us a line. Now, exponential equation is going to give us a curve. It's either, let me take a look at something like this. We have the x and the y intercept. It's either going to be going down, something like this, or it is going to be going up, something like this. So it looks like a curve. It will look like a curve. Now, I remembered when we started learning how to graph lines, we started with the table. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. For exponential equations, a table is going to help me out. So let me do this really quick. I'm going to do a table. I'm going to go X and Y, and I'm going to do 7 points. I may not be able to fit all seven, but I'm going to do all seven just in case. So let me do space here. I'm going to start for the X values. I'm going to start at -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I said 7 spaces. Again, for the x values for x, I'm going to start from -3 up until +3. Now, for my y values, I'm going to be using the equation in here. Now, the number that has no x, so the number that doesn't have the x as an exponent, that number that is by itself, we call that the initial value. Remember how last week we finished with initial value when we were solving for stuff? We call that the initial value. Now that number is going to be the y value when x is equal to 0. So it gives me a value here. I already have a point, 0, 2. Okay, so that's the y value when x is equal to 0. Now, for the other values, I'm going to use what we call the multiplier. Now, the multiplier is a number that has the x as an exponent. The number that has the x as an exponent, that's my multiplier. So in this case, my multiplier is 3. Okay, so what's going to happen with my 3? For 3, starting from my y value, starting at the 2, starting at the initial value, I'm going to go down, but for me to find my next y value, I'm going to multiply by 3. I'm going to multiply by the multiplier. So I get there's 2, that's my initial value. So the next number is 6, the next number is 18, and then I have 54, and so on and so forth. I'm multiplying by 3. Okay, so what about my other values? What am I going to do those? Well, let me divide. In this case, when I'm going up, let me divide by 3. We talked about that before. Remembered last week when we talk about the multiplier, when we talk about the initial value, I said they going down, you do one operation. Going up the table, you do the opposite operation. So 2 divided by 3 is 2/3. I'm not going to grab a calculator to find what the decimal is. I'm just going to call it 2/3. 2/3 divided by 3 is 2/9. And then 2/27. Okay? Remember how I said I was going to come out with 7 points. Each of these coordinates, basically each of these pairs are the coordinates of a point. Technically, I have the coordinates of 7 points. Now, there are 3 points, the ones that I put the parentheses around. There are 7 points that I really cannot draw. I can easily find the x value, right? -3, -2, -1, but not the y value. I'm going to say that y value is very, very small. I cannot find it. So instead, I'm going to plug in the points that I can. One point that I can plug in is the point 0, 2. I'm going to plug that one right here. Another point that I can do is the point 1, 6. That one goes right here. Another point that I can do is the point 218. That one goes right here. Now the point 354 I cannot do, right? Because I can find the x value, but not the y value. It's too far up. Now this gives me a very good idea. So I'm going to connect this as a curve. I'm going to connect this the best that I can. It crosses the point there. We call that the initial value. And then I'm going to say, and then it's just going to go here. And then it's approaching 0. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm even going to put arrows on top. So if the work was on paper, this is how we do it, right? You guys can plot them in. You guys can do it. Now, on your case, for your homework, I'm going to make it a multiple choice. So on paper, try to find the points. So when I mean the points, this thing right here, create a scale, create a list, a table that has points, and then your graph, the graph has those points. Again, I want to give it to you as a multiple choice, but you guys create the table and then make sure find the graph that has the points on your table. Let's do one more. Let's do a couple. I'm going to do a few more. Let's do a couple more. So let's take a look at number 12. I'm going to create my table. I'm going to do X and Y values. And then remember, I'm going to do 7 things here. 7. I'm going to find the value of 7 points. Starting for X at -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now, my initial value, the Y value, when X is equal to 0, remember how I said it is the number that doesn't have X as an exponent. In this case, my initial value is 5. So that gives me a point, 0, 5. Now, my multiplier in this case is 1/2. So when I go down, when I'm going down here, I'm going to multiply by 1/2. I'm going to write the answers here. I'm going to write the answers. I'm going to say 5 times 1/2 is 5 halves. 5 halves times 1/2 is 5/4. And then 5/8. Not easy to graph, right? But it's fine. Not to worry about it. So going down, I was multiplying by 1/2. So going up, I'm gonna divide by 1/2. Some of you might be thinking, oh, that's even worse. I'm gonna divide by a fraction. Now remember what we talked about last year in foundations. You guys talked with your previous teacher. What happens when you divide by a fraction? Probably you hated fractions, but what happens when you divide by a fraction? Do you remember that? You will have to multiply by the reciprocal. Remember that? When you multiply by a fraction, when you divide by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to multiply. Instead of dividing by 1/2, I'm going to multiply by 2. Oh, interesting. Remember, you have to change the sign from division to multiplication because you multiplied the reciprocal. Remember what reciprocal is? You flip the fraction 1/2. You flip that and becomes 2/1. So let's write that over here so we don't get confused. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2/1. When you divide by a fraction, you can just multiply by the reciprocal. So multiply by 2/1. Isn't 2/1 just 2? So that's why I said I'm going to multiply by 2. So starting here, my 5. So I'm going to multiply by 2. So that gives me 10. Multiply by 2. So it gives me 20 and 40. Now I look at the points. The first point, -340. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. The -220, I will be able to do that. That's right here. -110. Yeah, I'll be able to do that. That's right here. The 0.05. Yeah, I'll be able to do that. That's right here. Um, I don't think I can do the other points. Some of us might even say, well, I can probably try this one, the point 1 5/2. Because x value is 1, not a big deal. 5/2 as a decimal, isn't that 2.5? So like 2.5. So we can actually do that. It's right here. I don't think I can do any other point. Okay, that gives me a rough idea how my graph looks like. And it will go about there. Now, I'm still going to do two more examples for us to be able to get it. One thing I want to emphasize here. There's something I really want to emphasize here. Notice how numbered 11, my graph looked like it's going up. And then look at question number 12, my graph is going down. When my multiplier, remember the multiplier is a number that has the x as an exponent. When my multiplier is more than 1, my graph is going to go up. When my multiplier is less than 1, my graph is going to go down. Interesting. So having that said, question number 13, I see my multiplier is more than 1. I expect my graph to go up. Let's see. And I expect 14, my graph to go down. All right, let's take a look. So I'm going to create a couple uh, values here, and I'm going to create my x and my y value. And remember, I'm going to do 7 values, starting from -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. My initial value is 4. So I have the point 0, 4. Going down, my multiplier is 2, right? So going down, I have to multiply by 2. So starting at 4, multiply by 2, that's going to give me 8, 16, 32. Because remember, going down, I multiply by 2. So going up, I should divide by 2. Some people say multiply by half. Same thing. Multiply by half or divide by 2 is the same thing. So I have 4. My other values are 2, 1, and 1/2. Plug in the points that we can. I think I can do this point. -3, 1/2. I can do that. That's about here. -2, 1. Yeah, I can do that as well. It's right here. -1, 2. Gives me that point. The point 0, 4. Yeah, I can see it. The point 1, 8. I could do that as well. The point 2/16 or 2/16. I can do that. It's right there. The point 332. Yeah, that one I cannot do. So it seems like it started very, very low. And then it's going to go through my points. Again, you guys can see it on paper, right? It's not too hard to do by hand. In your case, you guys will have a multiple choice. Okay. I expected my graph to go up. Remember, my multiplier is more than 1. So good. It makes sense. Let's take a look at question number 14. My x, my y value. Remember, I'm going to come out with a table here. Starting at -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. My initial value is 1/4. Okay, not too easy to draw, right? As a decimal, what's that? 0.25. My multiplier is 1/8. Okay, so I have to multiply down here, going down, I have to multiply by 1/8. So 1/4 times 1/8 is 132. Some of you might be like, how in the world did you do that? Remember, I have 1/4 times 1/8. Remember, you multiply the top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers, so that gives me 1 over 32. All right, for the next value, I'm going to go 132 times 1/8. So 1 over 32 times 1 over 8, multiply the top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers. That gives me 1 over 256. And the next number gives me 1 over 2048. Ooh, 1 divided by 2048, very, very small number. Okay. Now, to go to the top, I have to divide by 1/8. Remember I mentioned earlier, dividing by 1 over 8 is the same thing as multiplying by 8 over 1. Dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. But isn't it 8 over 1 just 8? So I have to multiply by 8. Okay, what's 1/4 times 8? I'm going to do that over here at the bottom. 1/4 times 8 over 1 gives me 8 over 4. Remember, multiply the top numbers, multiply the bottom numbers. 8 over 4, isn't that 8 divided by 4, isn't that 2? Oh, nice. I'm dealing with whole numbers now. Good. I can do the rest now. To go up again, 2 times 8 gives me 16. Good. 16 times 8 gives me 128. Good. I can do those. So let's see which points I can plot in. -3, 128. Nope, I cannot do that one. I don't have space for that. -2, 16. Yeah, I can do that. It's right there. -1, 2. Yep, I can do that. It's right there. 0, 1/4. Ooh, I can probably do that. That's like about right here. The other points, oh, they're very, very small. Nope, I cannot do those. So I just plug in the points that I was able to do. And then I'm gonna say it goes and it starts approaching 0 like that. Good. Notice how for each of my graphs, I created a table. So go ahead and do that. Create a table. If you guys need help, remember, I'm always just an email away during school hours. Find me. All right, send me an email and I'll get back to you.